Perfect. All right, I'm Jared Erondu. Jeez. I was expecting like the things to still be down. Like I was like, expecting to talk in the dark and all that so that you guys couldn't see me when I'm nervous and everything, but oh well, we put everything up. The only thing I'm trying to do is see my notes in this thing. Can't really do that either. Is that it? Presenter notes, I found it. Cool. Yeah, I fixed things. Cool. All right, so I'm Jared Erondu. I'm going to tell you 2 stories about myself. There's story A, a statement, and story B, a story. You'll see why I'm doing 2 stories shortly. So statement, that would be a typical, I'm a designer based out of San Francisco. I work at Teespring, which is crowd-funded custom apparel. Before that, well, back in the day, I guess, I'm so old now. I worked at TED first, and then Treehouse was my first design gig. Ryan Carson, I don't know if he's still here, but he was my first design boss, which was pretty crazy to see him here, because I felt like he was just like stalking me the whole time, and just like watching me, just watch my every move, see if I actually developed into anything worthwhile. I think I did. And yeah, that's it for my statement story. For my personal story, I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and I lived in Sweden for 2 years and Venezuela for 2.5 years. I moved to San Francisco last year from Baltimore, but it was like Baltimore suburban area, so not like The Wire, like there's no drug deals going on in the corner. It was more like minivans and mothers, but I still kind of liked it. And the reason why I have 2 stories is because the second one kind of tells you a little bit more personal information about myself, things that you won't find on my Twitter bio or on my personal website because they're unique and personal to me. Versus the first story is kind of like what we're trained to tell people when we go to like design meetups or to like bars or whatnot. You're talking to girls like, yeah, I work at Google, I'm a product designer, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's just natural to come out. But, especially in San Francisco, saying that you're a designer at Google or a designer at Facebook or whatnot doesn't exactly make you unique because there's like 1,000 other of you. So she's like, she can easily respond and say, yeah, I just like literally talked to your boss like 2 minutes ago, right? And that doesn't really do well for you. But it's weird. Like, I don't know. I've been talking about this for a while. That's Sam's line. I don't know. But, yeah, Sam. Yeah, there you go. So it's interesting. I have a friend, Luna. She's a designer turned artist. And she always asks me this question, or asks anyone for that matter. She asks, what's your superpower? Or super something. And the reason why she does that is because she said she's kind of fed up with like the normal response, like I'm a blank, working at blank, I've worked at blank, I'm about to vest, I'm like about to hit my 1-year clip in 2 weeks. That's like the standard answer. And then Juan, this like weird fella here in the audience, he always tells me when he goes up to the bar, sorry, I'm gonna like ruin your game right now. But anytime he approaches a girl at a bar, instead of asking her where she works or telling him where he works, he asks, what do you like to do for fun? And as weird as he is, I agree with that question because it kind of catches you off guard, right? Like you know your standard response is to like where you work and what you do. But when someone asks you what do you do for fun or tell me a story about yourself, you kind of have to like stop and think and actually, well, what is the story about myself? And without further ado, that's the point of my talk, storytelling. Actually, I brought some snacks here because I figured that like, did someone woo? There we go, there we go. I know like my 15-minute rant and me is like crap. Is like the only thing like stopping you guys from like eating your tacos. So I actually had like Jordan, thanks Jordan, actually run out to CVS to get me Pops and Snickers and Twix and Starburst and all the different stuff. And I was gonna throw all these things out to people, but like I was like working out last night, so my arm's pretty sore. So I'll just like leave this on the table, and then afterwards I'll just hand that out to people if I remember. All right, so storytelling. Let's start with what it's not. What is not storytelling? Here's one example. This tweet was tweeted to me January 14, 2013, so it's like a 1.5 years old. It's my friend John Gold. And he tweeted to me, we weren't in an argument. We were both like, like designers do, talking collectively about something that angered us, which was the whole like Airbnb for this, Uber for that, Dropbox for this or whatnot. And this example was beautiful. It's like we're kind of like an Airbnb for Uber, for Facebook, for Instagram cats with a synergistic social graph disruption. And this is a little bit on the extreme side, but it actually doesn't stem too far from like a new trend we've been seeing in tech scenes where people explain themselves based on what other people have done, right? They don't really want to craft their own their own explanation for what it is that they exist. They drop buzzwords all the time like innovative, game changer, disruptive. How many of you have actually seen this show? Silicon Valley on HBO. This show is amazing. And I feel bad because it's like there's a lot of like crap that happens on in that show, but it's sad because it's actually true. The only thing that's missing from the show is like a appearance of me like in the background, because like it's San Francisco or Silicon Valley, I guess, and I live there, so I don't know how I'm not in the show yet. But anyway, like that's the only thing missing. But they drop buzzwords all the time in the show. And it's interesting to see like innovative, game changer, disruptive, because if you think about it, if every startup was actually innovative, game-changing, and disruptive, there'd be no game, there'd be no innovation. If everyone was simple, there'd be no complex, right? So obviously we're bullshitting ourselves. But this goes on. Continuation of what it's not. How many people can like identify what this is? Be honest. It's okay. A landing page, right? What do we have here? This is our hero image, right? We go to like flickr.com, get like a cool photo, spice it up with like a gradient, like blue to purple or something, like purple to blue, reverse it, switch it up. We have this. This can either be like someone's face or like an icon, some arbitrary icon. You like to do 3 because 3s are great and all that stuff. We come up with like some disruptive word. This would be like simple and like game-changing and disruptive, right? And then we get like 2 to 3 sentences to fit down here. I will be honest, like I've actually done this in Photoshop, right? And I swear to you, like it'll be proximate over Open Sans or some like whatever the new sans serif is. And like you'll actually craft the sentence to make sure that like this is 2 lines and that's 2 lines and that's 2 lines, because as soon as this like pops into 3, like your whole design's screwed, right? So that's one layout. This one's kind of like the new gem. This used to be like back in the day. Apple like pretty much popularized this one, the waterfall effect, because it's like, a little nice waterfall. Got the image, we got the text, we got the image, the text. Did I just say it backwards? Sorry. The text, the image, the text, the image, the text, and the image, right? And there's nothing wrong with this. Like, this works. You're conveying your message. It obviously works because, like, we're employed. We get our checks every 2 weeks. If it didn't work, no one would be using our products, and we would not be here. But the thing is, like, these design paradigms should be used as templates and not escapes, right? Like, actually think about the content. Think about the things that are going to fill these lines. Like, your icon shouldn't just be some arbitrary icon, like, I'm going to like download Drew's Pictos font and like just like drag, where's Drew? There you go. Just like drag 3 things inside there and like, whatnot. Especially when you're dealing with like internationalization and like you just like convert your whole PSD to like Finnish or German and like this whole thing just like ceases to exist. Just like breaks or whatnot. And then this is another example. This is, my friend Josh actually like came up with this idea. Like he was like, just like for fun, just Google like love movies or like romantic novels, and this is what you get. These are the results, right? Safe Haven, Love Happens, The Notebook, The Man in the Moon, The Vow, can't even read that shit. Something, and another movie. They're all kissing though, right? They're all kissing, right? Like, I'm not lying, like, they're all making out. And it's weird, like you can do this for a whole bunch of stuff. You Google like Inception, like movies like Inception, you get a whole bunch of them. You Google something and you get like just a shit ton of like eyeballs as movie covers. And it's weird because this has become the norm. Like no one really, we put so much time into like our products. We craft these amazing experiences. Like, we're amazing. We're like really smart people in this room. But for whatever reason, when it comes to actually crafting the story or the narrative about our project, we end up like these people. Like we just make the same thing over and over and over again. So trying to move into like what storytelling kind of is, let's quote Steve Jobs because like Steve Jobs is just a great person to quote in general. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation. In our case, if we're the storytellers, we're setting it for our products. Obviously, this is some like quote from I think it was like one of Steve Jobs' like former Next employees, who said like he walked into a room and drew like an analogy between like where Pixar was going and left the room and said, fuck it, I'm just going to be a storyteller, and then he actually became a storyteller. But Steve Jobs, like, he talks in like really big words, so like when he does those things like this is just me, like I don't even know what he's saying, but they're like I'm just mind blown. Let's just let that roll. This is me anytime he talks. But let's see if we can like break it down into like layman term or whatnot. So what is storytelling? To me, all right, I'll just read off my notes here. I wrote, think of a good story you've heard in the last few months or even years. Any story, short story, children's bedtime story, a narrative joke, story in the presentation, etc. Now think of a couple of good statistics you've heard in the last few weeks. Which one comes first? 9 times out of 10, it's a story. Stories stick in your head, sometimes for years. Stories are more powerful today than ever. Think of brands like Apple, Levi's, Facebook, Everlane, Hardgraft. We say it's the quality and the brand that draws us to purchase their products and use their software. But what is brand? It's the story, the message, and the theme. Why? Because we're drowning in information. Good stories can cut through the noise. Personal stories feel real versus abstract concepts, statistics, or logical arguments. Stories capture people on an emotional level, creating a deeper, intimate bond. Stories are memorable. People forget facts, but remember stories. In a book, A Whole New Mind, author David Pink, in a full chapter, captures the essence of stories. He says, stories are important cognitive events, for they encapsulate into one compact package information, knowledge, context, and emotion. And that's a lot of deep words, but basically what he's saying, I think, is don't spend all this time creating a beautiful product and half-ass its description, right? If we're saying we're a unique industry, like 10 years ago, you can't get paid for what we do nowadays, which is pretty crazy. But I don't know, it's like you wake up every day and you go to work and you sit there and you do your best to solve complex problems with simple solutions and all that good stuff. And then when it comes to our copy, of course we don't really use lorem ipsum anymore, thank God. But we just write stuff. We just copy paste H1s and just put them on our pages, which is crazy because if you copy paste a thing and paste it on a lot of sites, it could probably actually work with a lot of them. It's so vague. So I tried my best to kind of formulate this 3-step plan. There's Toy Story in the back. It's just perfect for this. And step 1 is tackle the theme, which is the core message, the narrative that makes you original. Answer questions like, who are you? And what do you do? Why do you do it? And why would I use it? A good example of this is actually Dropbox. They don't have this anymore. I actually asked Josh for this link last night. He couldn't even fucking find it. But this is back when they were getdropbox.com. And they had this video, which I will try to play.
You've been there. You're about to buy lunch and realize your wallet is in your other pants. Or maybe you left your keys at home. The problem is organization. You need one place for everything, like a magic pocket. Putting something in the magic pocket means it's always there, no matter what you wear or where you are. The same thing is true for computers. If you have more than one, keeping track of all of your files can be a pain. Solving this problem is one of the big ideas behind Dropbox. It's like a magic pocket, a single, secure place for all of your stuff. Let's meet Josh, who is preparing for a big trip to Africa. Right now, all of his trip info is spread across his laptop, desktop, and phone. He needs to consolidate it all and is tired of having to email files to himself or move them around with a USB drive. Then he found Dropbox, which creates a new kind of folder on his computers. These folders work hard to be exactly alike, even across Macs and PCs. By adding his itinerary to his laptop Dropbox, he can be sure the same file will show up in his desktop Dropbox and even on his phone. The same thing happens when he saves a document in a Dropbox folder. The document gets updated across all of his Dropboxes. But it's not just his computers. The Dropbox website also works to be exactly like his other Dropboxes. Anything he puts in Dropbox is available on the website automatically. This way, if his Jeep takes a dive and his computer is ruined, he can still get to his files on the Dropbox website, where they're always backed up. As it turns out, Josh's Safari was a success, and his laptop made it home with lots of videos and photos to share. Instead of emailing everything, he just shared a Dropbox folder with his mom, so she could get copies of photos she wants to frame. Because it worked so well for travel, Josh made Dropbox the home for all of his stuff, so it's accessible anytime, wherever he goes. Whether you're traveling the world, running a business, or simply organizing your life, Dropbox means you can stop worrying about managing files and backups and get on with your next adventure. You can download Dropbox now at getdropbox.com.
Yeah, there's that. How many of you use Dropbox? I know that's a question that would be asked if I work at Dropbox. I don't work at Dropbox. But I actually learned about Dropbox from my mom. Now, that's pretty weird, I guess. Actually, from my dad. My dad learned about Dropbox from my mom. And my mom learned about it through this video. Like, she's the one that even told me about this thing, which is pretty crazy. Because you look at like the technology that actually powers Dropbox, like there's a whole bunch of like, SSL encryption, all this fancy terminology that my mom would never understand. But she watched this simple video, and all of a sudden this very complex engineering became so simple to her because she could relate with Josh. She's never traveled to Africa, but she's traveled somewhere, I'm guessing, I don't know, her life. But I'm sure she's taken photos and has lost something, right? And just watching Josh, she's like, yeah, I could see myself like taking advantage of such a software. And she told my dad, and then my dad told me. And of course I pretended like, yeah, Dad, of course I know about Dropbox. I'm in tech, like I know this stuff. But I honestly did learn it from them. And this is an example of taking something so complex and not just throwing up like all the feature sets, but actually trying to craft a story around it that people can relate to. So that's step one, tackling your theme. Step two is creating the characters. And in this case, our characters are our features. Yeah, that's some good stuff. So this step we already have down packed because this is the stuff that we actually do day to day. We work on our features, or in this case, our characters. The characters of our story is the features of our product, our service, and our brand. And we do this part really well, so I'm not going to stay on this part too much. And then there's step three, which is the part that we just like completely just fucking forget, which is craft the connection. And this is tying the, the theme with the characters together to actually make a story. And the reason why this step is so vital is because features don't convert if they don't connect, right? Like if you just land on a page and it's like, we're capable of this, we're capable of that, and like you just push and push and push, and all of a sudden you have a page of like 200 feature sets, like I'm probably ever going to use 5. Like you look at Photoshop. Photoshop probably has like 2,000 functionalities, but as designers, like how many of them do we actually use? If Adobe like made like Photoshop.com or whatnot, and you went to it and they listed out every single thing that they did, and you never heard about Photoshop before, you'd probably leave the website before you signed up because it'd be overwhelming. You wouldn't be able to like synthesize all that information. But by, there are many ways that you can go about tackling it, which comes back to the whole thing of like a statement versus a story. And some examples of this is like images or media, GIFs or GIFs, however the hell people say it. How do you guys say it? GIFs, raise your hand. And GIFs, raise your hand. I swear that the creator said it's called GIFs, right? But we're just deciding to call it. We're deciding to call it GIFs. It was too late. Doesn't matter. All right, cool. So GIFs it is. So here's an example of a photo taken by a friend of mine, Cole Rise, who created the app Lightly, which Sam said yesterday that he built. And in this photo, like he actually captures a lot in this. Like, Lightly already existed for the web. Like people downloaded it for like After Effects or whatever, and Photoshop and all those good stuff. And when it came to making an iPhone, this was his first teaser at the fact that an iPhone app would be created. And in this shot, it tells a lot. First, it's telling you why Lightly exists. Like he's a photographer. Obviously, when he finishes his photo shoots and whatnot, he wants the end of his photos to look less crappy. So before is the original, and after is the new one. And then the little thing down the middle was actually built out by Sam. Like you tap on the top, and it actually shows you what your photo looked like right before the filter was applied. And in this, he's telling you, why I'm doing it. I'm a photographer. I want my photos to look better. How I'm doing it, and why you should use it. Like it's very clear. Like I'm not going to look at that photo and say, why would I use the app? Obviously, the after side looks better than the before, right? So this is just one example. Like we kind of already do this. Like we're getting a lot better at our illustrations. We're making things fancy. Next one is, sorry, that's another image. I don't know. Sorry. Next one is personas. So Quora actually recently wrote an article on Medium about their process in redesigning Quora for iPhone, for iOS 7 in particular. And they took the whole persona thing to like an anal level. Like they made this guy out of like thin air. Like this guy's Alex Howard. Like that avatar is not Alex Howard. Like I don't even know who that guy is, and they probably don't even know who that guy is. But they listed out his behaviors, they listed out facts, they listed out needs, and they listed out goals. And the reason why they did this is because now they actually created this guy, this person that they can actually like relate to, right? Direct all your messaging to him. Help him understand how he can like benefit from using Quora.com. And Quora is capable of a lot of stuff. But when you nail your personas, it makes it a lot easy. Like personas are a great tool for developing empathy for users and ensuring that a product is designed to solve actual user needs. Although Quora has many kinds of personas, sage contributors, inquisitive scholars, etc. I focus on Alex, this guy is talking about this, this time-starved entrepreneur, because my usability tests participants all shared similar demographics, behaviors, and needs. Furthermore, Alex's persona has a higher probability of resonating with the majority of our users. And that's Norman, the guy who wrote this article, a designer. Here's another example. So the last one was like creating your own personas. InVision actually does something pretty cool, which is like they crowdsource their personas. How many of you like have like the email stuff for InVision? Like every Monday they send out like an article, like design at like how it works or something. And this is a friend of mine that works at Shopify. And every Monday, Aaron or Amanda at InVision send out a look inside design at company X, Y, Z, or whatnot. And it serves the purpose of showcasing to current and potential users how a product is used in different environments, with the hope of viewers envisioning themselves in one of those use cases, because everyone uses a product differently. And another example is just like the good old landing page. Like Chuck on Wednesday talked about like how they spent 9 months designing their homepage. I think he said like 6 months too long or something. Yeah, probably. But you know, their homepage, I'm sure they're, like if you go to it, there's actually some stuff that actually relate to like the wireframes I showed earlier. But you know, they didn't just like throw it up in like a night or whatnot. They actually like, he came down to like Teespring's office and we like walked through this whole site. And you see like a lot of thought that was put into it. Like yes, at the end you had like the images and the illustrations and the waterfall effect and whatnot. But the content was crafted. It wasn't just like put up there like, oh, I'll do the landing page tonight or whatnot. And basically like, Alan Kay is an American computer scientist. He's best known for like coining the phrase, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. And he's also like one of the guys that pioneered like object-oriented programming. And he said, scratch the surface in a typical boardroom and we're all just cavemen with briefcases, hungry for a wise person to tell us stories. And it's true. It doesn't sound true? It does sound true. Oh, it's funny. There you go. All right, you guys can laugh, I guess. So this is actually really true to me too. Like oftentimes I find myself in meetings where people are saying things like, oh, our metrics have done this and all this different stuff. And that's all great, but like, you know, how do we convey all that jargon and whatnot to our audiences, to our users? So basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is, this is where I go into like Steve Jobs mode. So I wrote like something beautiful. You guys can quote me and tweet it and stuff. We're a community of believers, a collective group of individuals who believe in man's innate ability to create, shape, and mold the world around us, to fill it with meaningful things that will benefit us now and in the future, whether they're physical or digital. So identify what it is that you do or solve and explain it in your own words. Build your own brand and your own identity. You spent so much time working on your killer product, don't just like bullshit the description. With that said, continue to design and code, continue to build new things, better things, continue to seek out areas of improvement, and while you're at it, tell a story. You just might get hella likes for it on Dribble. And what is that? Oh, that's my mountain friend. That's a gift. See, this is why I wanted the windows closed or whatnot. But anyway, that's the end of my talk, so that's the end of the rant.
Does anybody have any questions?
Does anyone, oh, I'll hand out my candy after.
You didn't answer your own question. What's your superpower?
Oh, man. See, that's the whole thing. Like, I know where I work, but I don't know what my superpower is. I guess it's flying. They have, like, the little water jet ski thingy over there. And, like, I think just about every night I dreamt that I did it. So I'm guessing I'm pretty much capable of doing that thing. So, yeah, flying. Yeah.
Does anybody else have a question here?
Cool.
Good. Thanks, Jared.
All right.